Welcome to the Up and Live Beyond series, where we'll be looking at the lives and stories of ordinary South Africans who turn challenges into opportunities. My name is Teekay Mahapa, also known as TK, also known as the Bearded Muse. I'm a content creator and I curate news around menswear, fashion, grooming, and lifestyle. We've seen how technology has launched and advanced many careers, but nothing has been as compelling as the influencer industry. Today we'll be discussing the evolution of these social media driven careers and just how far it can take you. I'm joined by three lovely guests today. Welcome everyone and thank you so much for joining us. I'll allow my guests to introduce themselves.
I'm Dash. I always say I wear two hats. So I'm on the corporate side and I try to influence from that side, showing a lot of people behind the scenes of being a brand manager. And then I'm also a podcaster as well as a content creator.
You must be very comfortable with this then.
Yes, yeah, I feel like it's me being on YouTube.
Great stuff.
Hi everyone, my name is Naledi, but a lot of people know me as Naledi Official. I am a YouTuber, content creator. But yeah, I'm a full-time YouTuber and content creator.
Yes, hi everyone, I'm Preetesh Swaraj. You're not going to find me on all these platforms. At least I haven't posted in a while. But my day job is CEO at the Louries Africa Middle East, which is the premier creative festival across the region.
The word influencer gets thrown around a lot. Can you explain to us exactly what an influencer is in layman's terms?
Yeah, I think lately people have been very precious about labels and titles. I mean, a few years ago, the word influencer didn't exist, but I think by and large, we've been influencing for a long time. If you think about your favorite restaurant, you'd post it on Facebook, and then you would tell a friend and say, you need to check out X and Y. I think it's just the scale has obviously been much more enormous now. But for me, and I say it in both my hats, from a corporate perspective, we look at the word influencer and we see it as creators that have something to say. They've built up a community.
So there's definitely a lot of people trying to, get into the monetization part of this, and I know quite a few people who make a living off this, but the brand has to get something out. Naledi, what do you think is the greatest value that you as an influencer, anyone that's trying to be an influencer, can add to a brand?
Anybody can call themselves an influencer, but it's your ability to either sell something to people or to influence people to purchase a product from a marketing perspective. That's from marketing background. So when brands look at you and want to identify the value that you bring, they must be able to know that besides you being able to sell a product, what is your value to that brand? So I think in order to bring value, you should, one, resonate with that brand. It's very, very important. Your authenticity plays a very important factor when it comes to being an influencer, because the one thing about influencing is realism. People can tell when you actually like a product and when you don't. People can tell when you identify and use that product as opposed to when you don't, right? So I think the best thing you can add value-wise to a brand is your authenticity.
Naledi, you're absolutely right. I think what brands are looking for is, first and foremost, they're not looking first to use you as a sales vehicle. I think what they're looking for is this somebody who has a genuine community that follows them and understands what they're trying to portray about their lifestyle, and then how can the brand slot into that? Because one of the things, I'll tell you, one of the things we did is we did some research many, many years ago, and in that research it showed that a lot of consumers, a lot of average people out there just don't trust brands when they go and pay a celebrity to go out there and endorse their product. They go, I know this person's paid. But when it's an ordinary person, it's actually an extension of word of mouth, and that's what influencers or creators actually bring into this world. It's to be able to say, yes, I'm just like you, I've built a community, and I'm willing to share with my community my authentic self and the brands that are part of this authentic journey that I'm on.
Don't you think that also now having influencers makes it a bit more difficult for brands to be able to share that authenticity? Because now that people understand that influencers are being paid, it's kind of, does it not make it a little bit difficult in finding the influencers who kind of correlate with that brand as well? Because I've realized in my job, one of the most difficult things is that even when I am working with a brand that I agree with, I find myself having to make sure that I am portraying the message without the paid partnership aspect of it, right? To really sell something without having to sell it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it absolutely does. And if you look at, let's say, the celebrity environment, right? So a television actor or a movie actor, people know that this is somebody who makes their money from doing multiple endorsements. The difference with an influencer or creator, what people understand is this is somebody who I've gravitated towards because of their content, but they have to eat. They have to have a lifestyle, and they need to fund their ability to create the content that I love so much. And therefore, if they do that by partnering with brands, it's fantastic. So therefore, you find so many people are so accepting of creators, influencers doing that, and they're so accepting of the brands who partner with these influencers.
100%. I think the big word that I've heard here is revolves a lot around community. So Desh, I wanted to find out, with one of your hats, from that perspective, is follower count everything?
I would say earlier on when this industry took off, community or your follower account being verified was that badge of honor. Yes, there's legal elements to it, right? You want to be verified so people don't kind of have to be you. You want to make sure that it's your authentic, true voice. But by and large, there's this big misconception, especially I would think here in South Africa, that influencers feel I need 100K or 200K or 300K. So what Preetesh was saying earlier on, it's about having an engaged audience. And this is why the whole notion around micro influencers is really blowing up, because it's about saying, if I have 1,000, 10,000, 20,000, I know that if I have to have a point of purchase, suggest X, Y, Z, they really would be authentic and understand that. So my biggest advice is don't be precious about the numbers, because trust me, even if you get to 1 million, you want to get road to 5 million and then 10 million, and it becomes that vicious cycle. But caveat though, I think in the case of YouTube, there is that element where you want to start growing that audience because there's an element of monetization. So I think it's a game that you need to balance, but don't let it be your North Star. Look at engagement, look at sentiment, look at resonance, and then that will give you that sense of judgment if you're on the right path.
But just to add on to that, as much as I completely agree with you, follower account isn't everything. But the problem is that we were in an industry that was created us to believe that follower account is everything, right? I think one of the things about me is that when I was on YouTube, my goal was to get to 100,000 subscribers so I could get a silver plaque, And then I got it and I was like, then I didn't know what else to do. I felt like I'd reached that goal. I became a macro influencer, but then just the road there, they always say that you always kind of attract 10% of your following whenever you do anything, whenever you get to them. 10% of your following will purchase or kind of believe whatever you're selling. So my thing is, I prefer micro influencers, because if she's got 10,000, she probably is likely to get 1,000, or if not 3,000, 4,000. 100,000, you're most likely to get 10,000, if not way less than that, because you kind of lose that communication. So it's not everything, but I think that's what the industry led us to believe for a long time, that it is. But micro influencers really are the future of influencing.
I want to find out your story and what was your big break, Naledi? Where did it all start?
So just a quick backstory. My sister and I were obsessed with YouTube. It was shortly after my mom's passing. I moved to a completely foreign neighborhood with my dad, didn't have any friends, so I was always locked in the house. Luckily, Wi-Fi, thank goodness. I would watch YouTube all the time, and I'd watch American and United Kingdom YouTubers, and I liked their content. I loved it, but I couldn't relate to it because a lot of the products were products we didn't have this side. And we started the journey on we want to become YouTubers that are relatable. Some of them were extremely beautiful, and you just felt like, I'm not that beautiful. Where am I going to go with this? So when I started, the whole idea was to create the ordinary woman to feel extraordinary. I wanted the next door girl who always admired beautiful women to understand that there's so much more outside of just being beautiful. Your personality can always shine. So I think what I did is I started off as a makeup influencer, a makeup YouTuber, and then I quickly got bored because I was tired of contouring highlights. I was tired of teaching people how to contour and highlight all the time. So I started doing real life story times. I would tell stories of my really horrible relationships, and I started eating on camera. There's this new wave called mukbangs. Yes, mukbangs. Not mukbang, mukbang. It's a really huge wave. And I was one of the first YouTubers who found a seafood boil in South Africa and then started kind of doing seafood boil mukbangs. Right. So that's where it actually took off. E-News, E-Live, they reached out to me. They were like, hey, what are you doing? You're eating on camera and people kind of like it. It's weird. But it took off there. because I moved away from what was considered the right kind of industry to be in when you're a female, makeup, and when you're a male, comedy, or like men's, or skits or men's fashion, right? I wanted to do something completely different. And that's when people picked up certain aspects in me that I don't know.
You start off trying to go on this journey to share a part of yourself, and it helps you actually discover a whole other part of yourself as well. And that's how you actually build your brand. The brand development comes from all of that feedback that you actually get.
It was my subscribers who said, you should be a presenter. And I was like, no. Anyway.
And now you're amazing at it.
Exactly. Now I actually love presenting. I didn't know it was something I had in me. It was my subscribers who helped me identify that.
Yes, your story is quite interesting. I think if I heard you properly, you mentioned that you do it from behind the scenes, and then you quickly change your hat and you do it from sort of like in front of the lens. Can you tell us about your story and your sort of big break?
I started off as a female DJ, and back then, Instagram had just started, Facebook was everything, and it was quite difficult for me to kind of like get that reach and that resonance. So, I had a good few years DJing, and then I found this world of digital agencies, and I'm like, wait, there are agencies that represent brands, but they're like cooler and you don't have to be in corporate. So yeah, I spent a good like 5-6 years working on some of the best brands on the agency side, and that's when I realized I could bring what I learned as a DJ, understanding the culture a bit more. And then I do this every 6 years, I pivot. And then I realize, actually, you know what? I want to be on that side of the table. I want to know more about corporate. And I pivoted, and now I'm a brand manager on a global brand. And the thing is, if someone like a Naledi walks into the room, be it with my agencies, I feel I understand her a bit more, because I feel like I'm still representing, so to speak.
What do brands look for in people that they can collaborate with?
Yeah, and this is where you're going to hear me speak more corporate.
Yeah.
You have to switch up, right?
Hear from the
So
both of you.
when you do your brand planning, right, and I'm just speaking loosely, I'm not speaking on behalf of my brand, any brand, I'm just speaking about generally the status quo. You plan your annual budget, you'll have ATL, you have BTL. Then you empower your agencies with a brief and you say, okay, from these platforms, influencers will be a platform. Come and here is the brand objective. Find people that resonate around it. But influencers are a critical channel to reach and meet your business goals. And that's how it is.
And if I can just jump in there, so I think sometimes one of the challenges with many influencers, when they look at themselves and their relationships with the brand, they look at it, and if I use all the media type analogies, they look at themselves as a television channel. Because in YouTube, we're a television channel, and that's what the brand is doing. The brand on the other side is looking at many influencers and looking at maybe more as a billboard. And this is me dialing it down even further. There we go, let's dial it down even further. They look at each influencer as a billboard. Now what happens is, if you have to think about your journey driving here or driving anywhere around, you see the same ad on the billboard in multiple different places. And therefore, each influencer serves that purpose, to be able to communicate to a small group of people in a specific location, multiple times throughout their journey, throughout the day, or whatever else it may be, in terms of the brand values themselves. But then you have another influencer who serves that same purpose somewhere else. So brands are looking at multiple influencers sharing the same message. But I think sometimes what an influencer does, they look and go, okay, I'm working on this brand. I'm like a television channel. It's my responsibility to deliver this message to everyone else. And if I don't deliver it to everyone, the brand's going to look at me and go, you failed. No, because the brand's going, you already have an audience. We just want you to speak to that audience. There's no need to grow and no need to reach further than that.
What is an influencer that is not getting chosen for campaigns doing wrong, and what can they change?
No, I think it's a super serious question. So there's a trifecta to this, that the pinnacle of it all is brand reputation, right? Absolutely, you need to be able to run your brand and what you stand for in a very compliant way. So say you want to work with a beauty brand, or sometimes, there would be appeal to kids, or it might be alcohol, whatever the vertical is. These brand custodians and their agencies, so think of it like the community, the council, they're going to look and they're going to say, if I'm going to entrust my brand in the hands of XYZ, are they reaching the right audience? Are they fake followers? This is the thing, the fake followers. Have they been arrested? Has there been any kind of slander around? Now, I'm not trying to force someone and say you need to be cookie cutter, but I am saying if you're choosing to take on that role, you need to treat yourself like a public figure. So brand reputation is really important. Then you've got on this side here consistency, because we all know people love kind of putting a lot of content and then they'll go quiet, or they will clean their feed and delete everything. And you must figure out, what are you about? So we look back, we say, okay, if we look at a grid as an example, what were her last 5 brands? How does it fit into a brand world? And then it leads to part of the technology. We have tools in place, and I've seen some amazing tools where we can put the influencer in, right? And then it'll spit out, it'll say, here are your brand passion points. This is how often they've posted with the brand. This is the consistency and such and such.
Just to add on what Dashine said, the cookie cutter thing, it is important to not have a notorious reputation. I mean, I was one person who was very vocal on Twitter, a little too vocal, and I lost a big brand because of that. Engaging in unnecessary kind of Twitter altercations, saying things that might not be politically correct or somewhat borderline offensive. As much as she's not saying that limit yourself or your personality, but she does have a point in saying that some of the things that we do say on social media follow us, especially when you become a public figure. You can say whatever you can say, you can engage in tweets, but one thing you will notice, especially about public figures, is that when there is some sort of animosity going on, they just keep quiet. They always advise you, keep quiet, stay away from your phone, switch it off, I don't know, do whatever you need to do, because all it takes is one moment of anger, and it can just catapult into so much bad, you know.
And we know Black Twitter screenshots and people live.
I've been a victim of Black Twitter. I was like, oh, you deleted, ma'am? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
You know, so Preetesh, I wanted to find out from you, what does the future of content creators look like?
Yeah, I think there's always a lot of innovation that's happening. So I think I'm going to focus on 3 areas. 1, innovation. 2, the ability to pivot. And 3, investment in your craft. Because what's going to happen is technology is rapidly changing. You're going to have changes. Talk of the metaverse. Soon there's going to be a digital Naledi somewhere who needs to exist, and a digital Dash. So if you look at it first, let's start off first with innovation. What you've got to do is understand that you're not sitting treading water as an influencer, as a content creator. What you've actually got to be doing is be on a journey and take people on a journey with you. As you've highlighted, Naledi, as well, you know, going from beauty into different areas as well. And then finally, investing in your craft. What you've got to understand that as you go through this journey, you need the right tools for the new platforms that you're going to be on. So don't stick with the same old tools that you have and go, I'm going to stay with the same phone and the same device and go through it. Invest in that new phone because it's part of your business. Invest in that new technology, and that's what's going to help you stay relevant, and that's going to help you be exciting for your followers.
I just hope that what influence take away from myself and Dashine in particular is that you don't need to look a certain way, you don't need to be doing a certain type of influencing. Like, influencing literally starts with you and what's inside of you. And you'll see that once you are passionate about something, people start believing in that because they can tell when you really are passionate about what you're doing.
Authenticity, community, and investing in your craft, some of the things that we learned about today. And it's been nothing short of an extremely insightful conversation. I would love to thank all 3 of you guys for joining us today. I really, really appreciate having you here.
Thanks for having us. Yeah. Cheers.
Be sure to follow up on Twitter and Facebook for sneak peeks and giveaways. That's it from us. Thank you for joining us. Until next time. Cheers.